Hello, checking to see if we're on. Starting early again today. What we have discovered is, well, I personally like being on early for a few reasons. One is I have the chance to see if there are any audio or visual problems, but also I get to answer some questions if anyone has any about VMV in particular, because when my mom is on, we don't tend to talk about products. We tend to talk about skin issues from a dermatopathologist's perspective. So I'm here for that if you need me. Yeah. While we are setting up. There we go. So yeah, so far we're on today Facebook and YouTube. So if you have any questions about VMV, I can get to them now. Otherwise, hopefully I can get to them at the end of the live. My mom will be joining us shortly. Oh no, it's windy again. Oh dear. Okay, let's see if I can deal with that issue. So good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. In Manila today it's a little gray and cloudy, but it's actually not so bad. It's fairly pleasant, at least it's not as hot. And to all our friends in the West Coast, I hope you guys are okay with the wildfires, which are just awful and devastating. And to our friends on the East Coast, our stores in New York, just praying for everyone's safety. So there, yeah, good morning. We don't start for another 8 minutes officially, but if anyone has any questions about VMV while I'm here, I'd be happy to answer. I may sneeze. Oh. Morning. Oh, Riley Costas, our new friends in Nepal who also work with Philippine dermatologists, if I'm not mistaken. So it's good to see you guys on Facebook. We don't start for another 7 minutes or so, but yeah, while I'm here. Hi everyone. Okay, so far so good. Let's hope this holds. So yeah, so today we'll be talking about inflammation, which is something I'm actually dealing with today. I have an autoinflammatory autoimmune disease, and I am currently fighting a flare, not fully in flare, because my son was ill over last weekend. My daughter is now fighting what he had, and what I have basically means I overreact. My immune system overinflames in response to people around me being sick, or other triggers, and I overinflame and stay inflamed for way too long, and then my immune system becomes more vulnerable, and then I actually get like a bacterial or viral infection. So I am fighting that today, but I've been good. I've taken my Monolaurin pellets, I've been snorting my coconut oil, so yeah, I got this. Today I had to miss my boot camp workout. I did manage just a simple bike to keep it up. That is good inflammation exercise, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, otherwise I'm struggling. I have a bit of pain in the mouth, etc., etc. But you don't even hear that necessarily. Okay, let me make sure. Oh no. Make sure. Hi, are we back? Okay. Right, so I hope we're back. please let me know if you can't hear me, or if anything else is unclear. How do I pronounce Ralikos? Am I saying that right, or am I mutilating? Ralikos, our friends in Nepal. Please let me know. I don't know how you would let me know in a comment in Facebook, but I'd love to know how to say that properly. So yeah, we'll be starting in about 4 minutes. Again, if you have questions about VMV, in particular VMV products that I can answer, please fire away and ask them in the comments, so I can get to them before my mom, our founding dermatopathologist, gets here, because when she does, we'll talk about skin and inflammation more than products and what we make for that. And get your comments and questions in, please, early, because what tends to happen, which is cool, is people get really into what she's saying and then forget to ask questions until the very end. And that's not a problem, except we want to make sure that we get answers to your questions in. There. So yeah, so we're live on YouTube now, and on Facebook. We also have been starting to put up more pre-recorded videos. There's one up now on YouTube of what VMV makes for acne. Everything from prevention to management to targeted treatments to makeup. I think as people forget that it's not just, you know, what you use that's an active treatment to treat a problem. It's also the prevention products that are really, really important. So we do talk about shampoo, conditioner, makeup, and such. And then we're going to have another video up soon where my mom talks about acne, but with a little bit of a different perspective, coming from the angle of a dermatopathologist, because they do see skin conditions differently, a little bit deeper maybe, because they're the ones who study the slides of skin when you get skin biopsies. So I grew up with my mom getting all these slides from the clinic that were sent to her from her clinic and other clinics to read the slide of a biopsy of the skin. So we have so many slides over here, and that's just part of my upbringing. Is being surrounded by skin slides. Okay. Yeah, so we'll start in about a minute. Or, well, we'll officially start in about a minute, and we'll give it a few more minutes to welcome people in. So there. Yes, I was talking earlier about how our topic today is actually really perfect, because I am fighting an inflammation myself today. And I think it's interesting, you know, people forget that inflammation is everywhere. And so my children, when they get sick, you know, I tell them, you are inflamed. You're fighting an inflammation. And the classic thing in the house is the kids go through the whole regular rigmarole of gargling with virgin coconut oil, drinking virgin coconut oil, drinking the Monolaurin pellets, everything anti-inflammatory. We do a lot of probiotics in the house. There seems to be a link now in newer research between gut microbiome health, our natural balance of bacteria in the gut, in our bodies, and how that affects our ability to fight off infection, even tendency towards obesity. Another helicopter here. Why do we get helicopters? Okay, so on YouTube it says, what? Chat is disabled. So I'm going to see if I can fix that now to make sure people can comment. So yeah, it's 9:01. Hi everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. We are live today to talk about inflammation. And we will be starting in a bit. We'll just wait for a few people to show up, to welcome more people. And then we'll start. I'll talk a little bit about VMV again and sort of the products that we make for inflammation, our approach to formulation for things with inflammation, and then I will welcome in, as usual, my mom to give us a dermatopathological approach to inflammation, as it were. Hi, Janice, and Josephine. Hi, we can. Okay, you can hear me well. Thank you. Awesome. Let's see if I fix that YouTube problem. Hold on. And this is one of our dogs. Our dog even has an inflammatory problem. I can't bring him here, but he looks awful. The poor thing. Okay, we'll give it another maybe 3 minutes and wait for more people to come in. We'll be talking about inflammation. The condition I have in particular, I was in a study at the NIH in the US for a while, called PFAPA, periodic fever, aphthous stomatitis, pharyngitis, adenitis. I don't quite remember the order of it, but that's what it is. And most adults outgrow it, usually get it in childhood, and then you outgrow it. And there's an interesting study, I think, that came out of Israel or Japan that links an imbalance in gut microbiota with recurrent autoinflammatory, autoimmune conditions. And when I was a kid, because I got sick every month practically and was given antibiotics almost as frequently, that is now the working theory as to why I get sick like this. But what has been amazing is just sort of upping my intake of probiotics, yogurt, and anything fermented. So sauerkraut. In the Philippines, we have something called bagoong, which is a fermented shrimp paste, which is awesome. And there's a delicacy I just discovered late in life in the Philippines as well called burong, which, my lord, it's a probiotic. It's really ripe. It's alive. But it's been amazing, so I'm very grateful. And then I do take probiotic supplements as well. And my kids, when they're fighting sickness, they do everything anti-inflammatory to a certain extent, because if they have a fever, that's actually important. It is a good inflammation and a necessary inflammation. So, as with everything in life, right? It's a balance. So, okay, I think I can start, folks. I'll first go into what VMV does for inflammation, but before I even get into that, welcome. We're in Manila, so it's a little bit of a cloudy day, but it's cooler than usual, which is cool. And hello to our friends in the States and Nepal and wherever you're watching. Hope you're safe and staying well and still staying protected from the pandemic. Before we get started, please remember on YouTube to like and subscribe and click the little bell thing so that you don't miss new videos that come up, because we're starting to come up with new videos every week, which I'm really excited about. And then please remember on Facebook and YouTube to ask your questions early, because things tend to pile up, and by the end of the live we try to rush to make sure that we get answers into all your questions. So to start, I'll talk about inflammation at VMV. And over the years, we started in 1979, and it's been interesting to see our approach to formulations change over the years. Where we started was really just about hypoallergenicity, just making sure that we didn't have any of the, back then it was 10, any of the top 10 known contact allergens. And my mom invented this rating system called the VH rating system, validated hypoallergenic rating system. Because at the time, and in many countries now, hypoallergenic isn't a regulated term. So she wanted to come up with a way where she could prove hypoallergenicity. And so she came up with this grading system, which is like an SPF, but for hypoallergenicity. And it shows how many allergens are not in a formulation, right? So for years and years, that's really what we focused on, is the absence of allergens in a formulation. And then over the years, as research developed and more work was being done into other areas like the barrier of the skin, lipids, cell membranes, cell walls rather, and the importance of fats and inflammation, then my mom really started getting into, wait, we can't just think about omission. We also have to think about what these products have to help repair a disrupted barrier, a barrier dysfunction in the skin, and what we can make that helps calm inflammation in the skin. And the more that we got to understand inflammation and its role in things like contact dermatitis and atopic dermatitis and psoriasis and whatever, then we started making sure that everything in a lot of our products contained anti-inflammatories, because so many things are inflammatory. So I mentioned a few things: psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, which is eczema, but also rosacea, obviously, and acne. So yeah, a lot of things are really, really linked to inflammation. The thing about inflammation, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is that some inflammation is actually a good thing. It's not always bad. Like we've been talking about with oils and with nutrition over the last few weeks, life is nothing if not balance. Everything has to exist in balance. You can't sort of go too far into one extreme. Everything has to be in balance. And so the same thing with inflammation. Fever is an inflammation, and it's important for your body to fight off infection. Your body inflames when it senses a threat, and that's important because you need it to fight off infection. Exercise is pro-inflammatory, but really, really necessary. So there's a balance, even with antioxidants, which we can get into another time. But so a balance is important. The problem with inflammation is when it becomes chronic and the balance skews too far towards pro-inflammatory. So for example, we're surrounded by bad food and it's so everywhere. Highly processed foods, too much sugar, all these things, it's just everywhere. So chances are, regularly in our diets, we're probably skewing towards pro-inflammatory whether or not we know it, right? So what we try to tell people, and that was the importance of the study that she did with psoriasis patients, that's the importance of an anti-inflammatory diet, to try to make sure we balance off that stuff, all that ubiquity of pro-inflammatory foods and practices. Pro-inflammatory everything is sort of our lives, right? We're highly stressed in the pandemic. That's why mental health has become such an important thing. Thank God, because we needed to double down on mental health far, far more than we had. And that's, lack of sleep is another hugely pro-inflammatory thing. Bad food, lack of sleep, stress, all these things are pro-inflammatory. And make no mistake, they absolutely affect everything in our bodies. They've been known to be linked to cancer, obesity, a whole slew of health problems, including skin problems. So the point is to get some of that inflammation under control. So I mentioned earlier how VMV now, or over the years, has really sort of focused on making sure our products don't just omit allergens, but also include anti-inflammatories. And sort of the classic first thing there is this little guy again, our Know-It Oil, pure organic virgin coconut oil. And I always like to point out that's an abstract of one of the clinical studies that we have published on it. This one specifically is on the novel antibacterial and emollient effects of coconut in adult atopic dermatitis. So wonderful as an anti-inflammatory. We often will use it even on actual lesions on the skin that need antimicrobial care and need inflammation to calm down. When customers come to us with a reaction, very, very inflamed for whatever reason, one of the first things we'll say is you need to go on a skin fast, what we call a skin fast. It's like an elimination diet, but for skin. And it's 7 days where they don't use any product whatsoever, and they only use this to cleanse their skin, just to bring down the inflammation, to bring skin to ground zero. And so we're in control of all the factors, and then they slowly start introducing products again. The sister of this, I should actually get one here, is called Oil's Well. So this is Noad oil. Oil's Well is the exact same oil, but with monolaurin added into it. So monolaurin comes from virgin coconut oil, so it's there anyway. But in Oil's Well, we've also added pure monolaurin into Oil's Well to make it even more anti-inflammatory, which is great for really inflamed skin, very, very sensitive skin conditions, and for babies. And then Boo Boo Balm is another big fave to calm inflammation. This little guy over here, I think I've shared one of the first things my kids, look at this house. My kids learned how to say is Boo Boo Balm. Every time they hit something, it's Boo Boo Balm, Boo Boo Balm, Boo Boo Balm. So, and we're actually, if I'm not mistaken, we're giving this away in the USA with a qualified purchase now. If you shop at VMVHypoallergenics.com, you actually get a travel-sized Boo Boo Balm now. And then the Red Better line was the line that we created for rosacea, which is another inflammatory condition. Right now we're having some problems with stocks, but we're getting more like as I speak. So I'm pretty excited about that. Please check, make sure you're subscribed to our emails so you get our back in stock announcements. It's been no joke, people. The pandemic has been difficult, not just for us, but even for our poor suppliers. So, you know, when our suppliers are late with getting us stuff or whatever, what I try to tell people is, look, treat everyone with empathy. It's tough. So we do have stocks coming in, but this is our Red Better line. And specifically, it has not just virgin coconut oil and monolaurin, it has something called potassium azelloyl diglycinate, which is a wonderful anti-cathelicidin. It's a lot of cool words. Dr. John Gallo did a lot of great work on cathelicidins and their link to inflammation. So Red Better in particular has a lot of that. And the Calm the Heck Down Balm in the Red Better line is awesome for calming inflammation. And that's itching, redness, flare-ups, etc. Even our 1635 shaving line, even this puppy has anti-inflammatories in it because people forget, you know, that's steel on skin. And particularly for very, very sensitive skin, that blade, just the friction of the blade coming across the skin is already extremely irritating. So our shaving line does have anti-inflammatories, and it's not just for shaving. I actually use the cleanser of this line because I love it and because it has coffee in it and it wakes me up in the morning. So there. People forget that irritations and allergic reactions are also inflammations. So if you have an inflammatory skin condition, acne, psoriasis, rosacea, atopic derm, contact derm, we really double down on prevention, which is why all of our products, from shampoo, conditioner, cleansers, etc., are designed to prevent triggering a reaction, prevents inflammation. A lot of them contain virgin coconut oil and monolaurin as well. And you can find all of this stuff at vmvhypoallergenics.com internationally and vmvhypoallergenics.ph in the Philippines. And I mentioned in the USA, if you shop now, you get the free Boo Boo Balm in a travel size, which is awesome. And in the Philippines, you get this, it's really cute. It says, I get my due, D-E-W, because we're punny like that. And we figure life is short, might as well enjoy it. So, and it comes also with an Essence Clark Wash, which is an allergen-free hair and body wash, which is great for the frequent hand washing, which can be so irritating on skin, but is so necessary right now during COVID. Other things that we make, and I mentioned this earlier, my kids take the monolaurin pellets. They are now, because they're fighting inflammation. Actually, we all are just sort of downing this at the moment. So if you're interested, that is at VMV Skin Research Center and Clinics on Facebook. They are also screening participants still for 2 clinical studies on hidradenitis suppurativa, which are recurrent boils in skin folds on the neck and chest, and and groin also, and underarms, and chronic spontaneous urticaria. So if you have these conditions or know someone who does, we'll be posting posters of kind of what they look like on Facebook today, so take a look. Please drop us a private message because these studies are looking really, really good. They're options. These are chronic conditions that are hard to treat. And if you would like a teleconsultation with my mother or any dermatologist that we work with, please drop us a private message or a direct message and we'll make that happen. So there, and for everywhere, remember you can drop us a private message with your patch test results, and we can customize recommendations for you based on your particular allergens. So on the balance of pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory, remember the point is we're already dealing with so many pro-inflammatories in our lives, especially in the age of COVID, where we have to use so many disinfectants on our skin, in our environment. All of that can be pro-inflammatory as it is. We have constant exposure to allergens. Many of them are airborne allergens from bleaches and stuff. So we do have an overall increased exposure to skin stressors, not to mention the extreme stress that a lot of us are feeling on a day-to-day basis. So to help with all of that, understand better inflammation, I will call in my mom. Dr. Vermen Veralio Rowell.
Here I are.
Put that there.
Okay.
Have a seat.
I will.
Okay.
There you go. Hello.
Hello. Right, Pink. I was saying we're all fighting a flare. Well, I am. And the kids are fighting infection, so it's actually perfect to be talking about inflammation today. So in addition to her being ridiculously well published, I mean, really, it's ridiculous, dermatopathologist internationally, she is a specialist in several inflammatory skin conditions like atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, very close to her heart, contact dermatitis also, and photoreactions and acne. And she was always an early proponent of a more holistic approach to skin, so that now when she meets people who are showing an inflammation in the skin, she really asks about everything: their work, their habits, their lifestyle, their exercise, their diets, if they're sleeping, etc., etc.
Right.
So say hello.
Hello there, everybody in the world.
Okay, so we're going to talk about inflammation, and maybe the best way to start is, why don't you tell us, what is inflammation really?
Inflammation in the first century, 25 years after Christ, was described very properly, actually, by a fellow by the name of Celsus. And he gave it, he said, when you have inflammation of the skin in particular, you will feel pain, that's dolor. You will feel warmth, that's calor. You will see that it is red, that's rubor, and you will see that it's swollen, that's tumor. And then in recent years, they added a fifth one, which is some loss of function. So inflammation is a change, whether it's in the skin and you see all those visible changes and loss of function. What are they? Calor, dolor, tumor, and rubor, plus loss of function. Inflammation in modern medicine is now defined more by what happens in the skin, in the cells of the body, which are kind of similar, so that inflammation is the same kind of change that occurs on the skin, such that in particular certain diseases like psoriasis have what we call comorbid diseases, driven by the same kind of inflammation that is obvious by visually in psoriasis lesions, not so visually seen in the arthritis.
Okay, wait. Hold on, because I have a disconnection here. I have to make sure we're connected again. Okay.
So inflammation within the body.
Wait, let me make sure we're live.
Okay.
Hi again, folks. Sorry, we sometimes get cut. Okay, so yes, we're back. So she was just discussing what inflammation is and sort of the ancient history behind inflammation and how long it's been discussed and described.
Right.
And you were going into psoriasis and how...
Comorbidities.
Right. So basically, okay, psoriasis isn't because of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's inflammation in psoriasis, what you're saying is that also can contribute to other things, like psoriasis. Is that what you're, like arthritis?
What I'm saying is that the inflammation can be contributed to by several things.
There you go.
Right.
Okay.
And once the inflammation occurs, then you begin to have swollen redness and all sorts of things. I was mentioning earlier that in the old days, the description was just what we saw and what we felt. Calor, dolor, tumor, and loss of function. But nowadays, we're going deeper into the actual things that happen within the cells, within and of the cells. And it can be, inflammation can be due to the diet because of a difference in the kind of diet that you take, so that there's an imbalance. Nature likes balance. It's always that way. When there is imbalance in the kinds of saturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids that you're eating, then you can have an inflammation because of the contribution of more pro-inflammatory.
Okay, wait, so what I want to know first is, but what is inflammation? It is a reaction of the body
to
what?
It's a reaction of the body because of, so that it produces the inflammation. So because of could be any kind of stress.
What it interprets as a threat is one thing that I've read. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
So it either, yeah.
So if the body is, for example, is feeling that it is under attack, right, or being threatened by something, the body calls out its warriors to address that threat, and that process is inflammatory. That is the inflammation.
Right.
Things get hot, aggressive, they go on the attack, and they try to save you, basically. So inflammation per se is not a bad thing.
Not
It's
at all.
part of your, right?
As a matter of fact, one of the very first things I'll mention as causing inflammation is good and bad. It's called oxidation. You need oxidation of what you eat, for instance, in order to be able to have the energy to speak in front of an awesome audience like you and my daughter here. You know, you need the energy, and for that you need the fuel from the food that you're eating to go down into the mitochondria, for instance, which is an important little thing inside the cell, and that produces the oxidation of those fatty acids, for instance. Now,
So inflammation does have an
there are
important
two parts
function,
of
right?
yes, there are two parts of the oxidation. One is to inflame, so that's the inflammatory reaction, in order to produce the energy, just like you would have in a furnace or burning coal,
There you go.
right? And the other one is antioxidants, to therefore bring it down. But antioxidants has a bad. People think that antioxidants are good, and the inflammation, the oxidizing agents are all good. Well, the
All
truth
bad.
is that all bad. Antioxidants and pro-oxidants are important in doing
Right.
the balance
Right.
of nature.
So as you're seeing, right, just like we talked last week about nutrition, even the quote bad oils like polyunsaturated fats, they have a function.
That's right.
So everything is in balance. For example, the microbiomes of our bodies, if you have too much of one kind of bacteria, that's also not a good thing. As she talked about over and over again in the skin, if we have too much of the fungus that lives naturally in our skin, or Demodex mites that also live happily in our skin,
Right.
healthily, if we do something that teeters the balance too much in one direction or another, then we have a problem. And from what you're saying, what I understand is the same applies for oxidation and inflammation. In their proper balance, they function really importantly for the body. We need those things. But it's when, for example, we have too many pro-inflammatory cytokines in our bodies, or we do too many pro-inflammatory things, lack of sleep, stress, bad food, then we get into trouble because the inflammation becomes chronic.
Yeah,
or
what
out of
happens
control.
is oxidation is a natural process. That's the way we function. But unfortunately, in modern life, there's too much oxidation going on in the body, from the particulates in the air, the pollution coming from cars, and the things that you're exposed to in your own kitchen, the chemicals that are in the air, as well as the oxidation because of stress, whether it's lack of sleep or an infection is going on, those all need oxidation, and therefore the innate, what we call the innate antioxidants of the body may become inadequate already. You know, they normally are able to take care of the antioxidant effect. For the oxidation, reactive oxygen species are formed by oxygen acting upon cells.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, but what we call ROS, or reactive oxygen species, then you have to have antioxidants to take care of them, to normalize, but then you need the pro-oxidants again to do
balance,
the
people.
balance.
So you can't teeter off too badly in one direction.
Right.
But so what, for example, what are some skin conditions that are affected by inflammation? You talk about
all.
psoriasis, but some are
That's why they're red.
But some of them are inflammatory conditions, mismo, right? Like psoriasis,
Acne.
acne.
As a matter of fact, a good example is acne.
Mm.
They have done biopsies of the skin in areas of the skin that don't have acne yet in somebody who has acne. In other words, they choose an area that's totally without acne at all. And when they biopsy that, they actually see that there's already inflammation down at that level, at the skin. And the reason for that, I presume, is really because of the factors that induce inflammation,
Right.
are not yet evident. Good examples are, we mentioned them, the diet is very important. It can produce inflammation, and that's why. And then it starts there as a microcomedone is what we call it, before it starts having a little whitehead and a blackhead, etc., and starts the process of the acne.
So you mentioned some causes of inflammation, like just now, right? So on skin, what can cause an inflammation?
The diet is always important because it's really what forms the structure of the cell.
Everything.
Down at the very level of the cell, there you have lipids that are used to make the membrane. And it's like having jello, you know. You have to have some polyunsaturated and you have to have some saturated to balance that cell membrane so it's not too wobbly. Because across that cell membrane of cells, there's constant communication from within the cell to the outside, and from the outside inside to the cell to instruct, to direct the processes and the enzymes inside the cell to do this and that. Whereas outside.
Okay. Point is,
Sorry.
No, please. This is why you're here. It's such a unique perspective, but I want to make sure I can try to dumb it down for me. Okay, the cells have a membrane, a wall, and that wall isn't just a random case to keep stuff in. It is a vital part of how all of our cells in our bodies function. Messages go through those cells. The cells have to be healthy, and they can't be too liquid or too solid. So again, balance, right? So we need polyunsaturated fats and saturated fats to keep this perfect membrane, right? The thing is, we eat so much polyunsaturated fats that it's sometimes good to say, with VCO. That's why virgin coconut oil is so important. And we actually have a question from Online Freelance Freedom. How often should we use VCO for eczema?
VCO for eczema is terrific for several reasons.
And eczema is an inflammatory skin condition.
Right. Eczema can be due to atopic dermatitis. That's the inherited form of that's in people who have atopy. And atopy means you're also prone to rhinitis, you're prone to asthma, and you're prone to atopic dermatitis. So atopic dermatitis is a form of eczema, but it can also be seen in contact dermatitis, which is an allergy or an irritation to chemicals either in your air quality is not so good nowadays, and then in other things that you're using. For instance, can I talk about the fact that no, I won't talk about the patient. She loves him and can't do that.
Anyway, also because doctor-patient confidentiality, but there's that HIPAA rules and
but
stuff.
It's such a fascinating
Point
case.
being, how many times should I use VCO if I have eczema?
VCO every day, twice a day, simply because one of the main problems in eczema, whether it's caused by atopic or contact or acne or psoriasis, one of the main things about eczematous lesions is that the barrier layer of the skin becomes compromised. Barrier being the topmost film of no cells, just spread out, you know, cell and the fat in between it that protects us from the outside world. That's compromised because of the process of eczema itself, and also because of the process of secondary things like applying a steroid, making the skin thin, changing the microbiota of that skin. When you use the coconut oil as an oil, its many functions include the fact that it is occlusive. So it gives you a secondary barrier in a sense that stays on the skin. It has anti-infection effects, so it removes the bad bacteria and helps balance the microbiota of that skin.
So every day, and perhaps even twice a day.
Twice a day. When you're really very dry skin because of the eczema, you should use it twice a day, and on top of it at night, so you don't, you don't get mad at me that you're too greasy. At night, get pure petrolatum, and on top of the coconut oil, massage it very gently.
Yeah. So it's occlusive.
Well into the skin.
Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of moist wound healing, but I find the logic is similar. You want a barrier so that the skin can heal in this nice wet environment under that barrier. Back in the day, we used to think that burns and wounds you kept open to dry.
Yes.
Then that changed, and we need occlusion. You need to cover it, protect it, and that moist environment is where the cells regenerate and everything gets happy again. Then you remove the cover. So it's kind of a similar logic there. We have a question here from Nina about how do you know you're having an inflammation?
You feel bad.
Okay. So, let's go to the skin specifically. When I get inflamed, so I mentioned I have an autoinflammatory condition, right? When I'm fighting a flare, my skin, my seborrheic dermatitis will act up here, my ears, the sides of my nose, and this is where I normally get it. My acne, I will get huge cysts in very particular areas. And I will often get mouth lesions, like a canker sore inside the mouth. This is all signs of inflammation. When you have a fever, you have an inflammation. When your eczema is flaring up, inflammation. When your psoriasis is flaring up, inflammation. When your rosacea is flaring up and you're getting a bright red whatever, inflammation.
Any itching.
Yeah, any itching, pain, swelling, all that stuff is inflammation.
If the question was referring to how do I know I have inflammation inside the body, you don't feel too well. You may have muscle aches, joint pain. I mean, these are all signals of the body to you to be aware of the fact that the things are not functioning as well as they should, and so therefore you don't have any diarrhea. You're regular, your muscles may ache after an exercise, but they recover very quickly. You sleep easily, etc. Be more aware about how your body is.
But I mean, the body at the end of the day, if it feels off,
it'll tell you.
There's a pretty good chance there's an inflammation. Here, Ruth is asking, how does eating or imbibing monolaurin help with inflammation?
Monolaurin is used when I have my patients imbibe it. It's basically to take care of an infection that's going on in the body, and I don't want to give any more antibiotics because the patient tends to be allergic to antibiotics or
resistant.
Or there are so many resistant organisms.
Or has been overtreated.
There you go.
Right. So it helps fight infection.
Right.
Again, with my kids who are fighting an infection, my son just came from a really weird 3-day, what we think is a flu, raging fevers, sore throat, and we just did gargling with virgin coconut oil and taking monolaurin pellets and also increasing the probiotic intake. Because the microbiome in the body plays an important role in keeping that balance of inflammation, right, in the body.
We are so used to taking antibiotics.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that it has led to what we call the resistant strains, whether it's MRSA, that's Staphylococcus. Viruses are now also resistant. Fungi are resistant. So the most important thing is to recognize early on whether your child actually has an infection that needs to be addressed. And I therefore, I have a patient I'm going to send later to have a culture of the organism, of something in the skin, because I want to be sure that I'm really treating an infection. The bacteria has already gone there, or there's a virus or whatever, and kill that quickly for just a week or 2 weeks, and that's gone, right? However, taking an antibiotic because you're not feeling too good, because you think you might be coming down with something, so you get your Citromax and take it for 3 days, saying, I'll feel better after I take it. That's not a good way to handle it, because then
we're building antibiotic resistance.
You're building antibiotic resistance. You're changing the microbiota so
of
that
the body.
you end up with children who are not. I mean, everybody here is sick. I was born and raised in a farm way up in the northern part of Cebu. I run around the farm.
She's an alien.
Yeah, I'm an alien. And I don't get any of these illnesses they get. I don't get. See, my microbiota are so good. Yeah. This is because my parents never gave us antibiotics when we were kids. You're sick?
Wait,
go to
stop,
bed.
stop. Again, balance. Don't just not take antibiotics. If your doctor really says you have to.
That has to be very clear, folks.
You got the tuberculosis, you got to take the antibiotic.
For 6 months or more.
It's a thing. If you have a serious viral thing that needs antivirals, you need to take this. So again, balance, right? You don't want to go too far off the deep end. If you are seeing that a wound, for example, or we had a friend who cut himself shaving and was convinced it was just a big pimple, and she took one look at it and was really worried about MRSA, which is methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, and it's one of the more dangerous infections you can get. And he had to get checked into the hospital, and they were about to cut his face open to remove this thing. And she came in and was like, no, okay, we're going to do like a swab. We're going to make sure what antibiotic it does respond to, and then we'll VCO and Monolaurin. But you can't just not take the antibiotic or the antiviral.
When it's needed.
When it's really needed, it's needed. Otherwise, it can become quite deadly. Okay. I was going to ask you one other thing. Oh, right! Right. Inflammation and its role in aging and hyperpigmentation.
Right.
And hair loss. How about that?
People with pigmented skin, and that includes me, that includes my grandchildren who are whiter, and she is whiter than me. And
Paler.
there are all paler. And there are, yes.
I am
paler.
a pale brown woman.
Right.
I'm pale.
So brown skinned people really have a huge range from very light brown to very dark
deeper
brown.
Deeper tones,
color.
yeah.
And the thing is that one of the main problems of people like this are, and I'm sure you may
People
be thinking,
like this. More
sorry about that,
pigmented, more
is
melanated.
discoloration of the skin.
Yeah.
Many of them are just what we call post-inflammation hyperpigmentation, PIH. Others are diagnosed as melasma, and others are hidden in certain areas of the body as a very quiet contact dermatitis that produces discolorations in the mid-thighs, at the groin area, at the butt, you know.
We
and
did
at
a
the
live
waistline.
stream,
It's fantastic.
really good on sex, underwear,
Right.
and things you might be embarrassed about, but you shouldn't be. And it's really interesting because she talks a lot about this
Pigmented contact dermatitis.
Pigmented contact
More
dermatitis.
common than you think.
On the
Just
bra
look at yourself
area,
later
underwear, etc. And people would normally dismiss it as just a part of aging in the groin, between the legs, on the butt, etc. And it turns out it's a contact dermatitis. It doesn't come with the itching and stuff like
eczema,
that.
yeah.
But it is a post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So in the name, inflammation plays a part
There you go.
in the resulting hyperpigmentation,
Right.
right? Anytime you get a rash, that's why pimple spots also happen. Post-inflammation hyperpigmentation is a common thing.
So therefore, lots of people will go to doctors and have laser treatments for pigmentations in the face and various areas. You must look into where it is. You must look into what your exposure are to visible lights indoors, to outdoor sun, to window lights that come in, reflections from, things like that. And consider those as possible cause, because photo energy is one of the causes for pigmentation. If not, you have to think, I may be allergic to certain things I'm using. Am I possibly allergic to that thing that I put here and then bring down here? I had a patient who was allergic to the earplugs, another patient who was allergic to that black, so the dye was allergenic, the black rubberized kind of material that covers her phone. And she didn't quite know why do I have this rash here? It comes
That
and
recurs, yeah.
and things like that.
Or we'll have clients who will talk about pigmentation in certain areas of the face, and one of the first things we'll ask is, do you use head covering? Right? A scarf or anything, a hijab, or do you wear glasses or goggles for work or for sport? Because what we're trying to do is trace where that contact might be happening, what could be causing the inflammation, and therefore what could be causing the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation.
Okay. So therefore, from there to aging skin is that the
Yes.
minute you see those inflammation changes in the skin, you're actually talking already about aging of the skin in the simplest way. And over time, if the exposure to whatever brought on the PIH, the pigmentation, or the melasma continues, those develop, you're more familiar with them, tiny wrinkles, those tiny little spots like warts, and then bigger warts. And then those are all part of aging because the cells in those areas are having either oxidation, or the cells themselves are changing, or the cells that produce the chemicals that are anti-inflammatory are no longer so effective, things like that. So therefore there is decreased collagen formation. That is normal. You have decreased elastic fibers, so that then you start having those tiny little wrinkles around there, the little warty things. Those warty things are already part of aging and development into skin cancer.
What
With
are the little
time,
warty things?
those are-
Lentigines?
Yeah, some of those warty things are called seborrheic keratosis. We have fancy names for the different
I was going to say,
kinds.
I'm sure they're not called little warty things.
Yeah. That,
They're seborrheic keratosis.
seborrheic keratosis, or then it progresses into what we call with dermatologists are open. We call them senile lentigo. Actually, they're actinic. Like
That's not
freckles.
nice.
Yeah, like freckles. They look like freckles. They become thicker and then develop those little warty things that are present on the face, on the exposed areas, as well as in the back. All part of aging, all leading to cancer, all part of
Right.
inflammation.
Because remember, oxidation is an aging process, or rather the aging process is oxidation. And you see that, when I talk to my kids about the life cycle of things, because I don't want them to be scared of death. Death is part of life. Energy doesn't go away. We just change energy, right? But we'll look at a plant as it starts to brown, and that is an oxidation that is the process of aging. The thing is, though, why fuel it? Why make it go faster? Why cause the cells to degrade faster is the thing. And that's where an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, foods, etc. can really help. We have, actually related to that, a question from Nina. What food triggers inflammation? Sorry, that's the dog. What food triggers inflation?
Number one is diet, because it's every
What
day
food
we eat. What
triggers
food? Sorry,
inflammation?
I wasn't listening. I apologize. The food are
Junk. Junk food.
well, let me give you some ratios. The omega-3 is very important, and the omega-6 are equally important. Both need to be in balance, but it's been calculated.
Those are oils and fats you need to have in your diet. Okay,
Right.
3 and 6.
coming from certain diet parts I'll talk about. But omega-3 ratio to omega-6, ideally, like in the Mediterranean diet and in the old caveman kind of thing, it is
Paleo.
1:2, right? And you'd think, yeah, I eat, this, and I eat the meats and the chicken and the things, and I also eat some fish and put coconut oil. I kind of follow the Mediterranean diet. But the thing is that you may think that you really are following 1:2 of the omega-3 to 6. But unfortunately,
It's everywhere, the omega-6.
the omega-6 is so hidden in many of the things
Yeah.
you're eating, that's coming from packages, from boxes, from bottles,
From anything prepackaged, from
Right.
anything that has long shelf life.
Pre-processed,
So
right.
I mentioned this earlier for those who came earlier in our live stream, that part of the problem is we live in inflammatory conditions as it is. So much of our food is inflammatory. We get so much of the inflammatory bad stuff that if you just really focus on the good stuff 100% as much as you can, you end up being closer to righting that balance
I'll
right?
give you a good example. The polyunsaturated oils was for many, many years we were told to eat more of or drink, polyunsaturated and stop the saturated fats. Remember? Those were the days. But the polyunsaturated oils are
Yeah.
easily transformed. They become rancid very quickly because of the polyunsaturation of the oil versus the coconut oil, which just becomes like a butter, it solidifies and all that. So it's very, very, it doesn't oxidize as quickly. Unfortunately, while we think we don't eat too much of this nowadays because we're told not to so much anymore of the polyunsaturated oils and food it comes from,
We do
what
anymore.
happens is, they are used to preserve.
Yeah.
They're used to process.
Or, if you look at those chips,
Right.
they're healthier chips. Fantastic chips. They're baked, they're healthy. And you look and the oil, it says vegetable oils. That's not necessarily great. If it's coconut oil, it's probably better. But I don't want to get back into skin and nutrition. I want to get
The highest
specifically to...
polyunsaturated fats, by the way, is in safflower and sunflower
So
oil.
if you see those, just say no.
Yeah.
But,
So
so
it's
foods
corn
that are
oil.
pro-inflammatory, a lot of those, what she just mentioned, safflower, sunflower oils, junk food truly is pro-inflammatory because a lot of it isn't even food.
corn oil
It's
also.
synthesized
High,
dyes.
58%.
Okay, so corn oil as well. So synthesized dyes and preservatives and things that your body doesn't even recognize as food absolutely is pro-inflammatory. So junk foods are just not a great idea. Gian, related to diet, this is interesting. Can fasting cause skin irritation? This is funny. Fasting is coming up a lot this week for us.
Yeah.
Can fasting cause skin irritation?
Fasting, skin irritation. What fasting does is increase the number of ketones, I believe. This is why they tell you to do that, so that it burns it more. And it's also used in people who have mental problems. But fasting.
Yeah. So there are some benefits to fasting.
I don't know I haven't really reviewed the studies on fasting and how it really works. All I know is that when you don't balance the food you're eating, you're not going to be, you may lead it to inflammation. And the fact that you fast and then just eat a heavy meal at night or just a heavy meal in breakfast, if you're trying to lose weight, you will decrease absolutely the number of calories you're eating a day.
So if that's the goal.
So if that's the goal,
But
is to lose weight,
Key thing here, though, is don't fast and then eat diet foods. A lot of diet foods are extremely processed. Use unhealthy oils, use unhealthy flavorings and stuff like that. If you're gonna fast, then just make sure the food that you do eat is balanced and healthy. Especially because you're already spending so many hours of the day or days without proper nutrition. And also, please don't fast without your doctor's okay. Some people just cannot fast because you really shouldn't be fasting. So
a
please
good
check.
example are canned foods, the powders that you mix in things and say, I'm having this is already very good. It's got this. Not a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to comment. Anne was saying that you're suffering from eczema flare-ups, especially the past few days. I'm very sorry. Flare-ups are a pain. I can speak from experience. And some of that really might be due to, as I mentioned earlier, we're living in inflammatory times. We're so exposed to bleaches and disinfectants, many of which contain irritants and allergens, and many of them are airborne.
Let alone the anxiety and the
Exactly.
stress, mental changes
Lack
in our
of sleep
brain.
if you're not sleeping.
Right,
Yeah.
because of the stress of the times,
Yeah.
So there are so many things that are stressing people nowadays, even though they're just staying at home, precisely because they're just staying at home.
Or
And
they're worried about
yeah.
the world,
Right.
or worried about income, or worried
Right.
about all these valid things, or getting
Exactly.
sick.
Right.
Very stressful, very inflammatory. So we have about 10 minutes left, so we're just gonna, I think we have one more question to deal with. Diana is asking, can you differentiate contact dermatitis from acne, especially in its physical appearance? I actually think this is a really cool question.
I think so too. That's
Because
very good.
yeah. I mean,
Acne is basically, in the young, it's due to hormones. They're growing up, they produce more androgens. The androgens start the process of acne. Okay, those are the multiple kinds of acne in the face. As you grow older, though, beyond 25 years old, you get what we call adult acne, and it's almost as common, if not more, than adolescent acne, because it can range anywhere from 25 to 60 or more. I've seen people who are 60 plus who have acne. The kind of acne, though, that you develop when you're already an older person can also be, again, due to the stresses, diet, lack of sleep, etc. But that kind of stress is different from the hormones that produce the stress when you're younger. And those multiple causes for the stress in an acne can have to be addressed, and one of them is really contact dermatitis. You know, they become irritated by things that contain acids when they use it too often. The retinoids, for instance, are fantastic, but use too much, you will destroy the barrier layer of the skin. You will become inflamed. You will get more cysts. Contact dermatitis to laundry soap, for instance, you use when you wipe your face, that can cause contact dermatitis that many people ignore because they think they just have acne. But it is mitigated, it is aggravated by the fact that you're also reacting either to the soap, to the lotion you're applying, to the sunscreen you may be using.
To the
there
mask.
are allergies to sunscreen.
To the mask.
To the masks now everybody's wearing. So be aware of all those things, and what two more things, and not just the acne process itself, but a reaction to the chemicals that are on the skin, including the airborne chemicals.
So, okay, I guess another way of approaching the same answer is acne looks like acne, it's pimples, but it could also be a folliculitis. Okay, but basically they're raised bumps on the skin, sometimes with pus, sometimes with redness. We did 2 live streams on acne that you can also look at, and we describe the difference between, say, comedones and acne on vmvinskin.com. There's a blog post there, and I just uploaded a video on that, and we're going to be uploading a video on her explaining acne more. But that's how acne looks. Contact dermatitis can present in many, many, many ways, right? It can be like a rash that's red or itchy or raised, or it can be like almost wound-like in appearance because of the friction and the whatever.
It can be the pigmented contact derm.
It can be pigmented
like
contact dermatitis. But acne can be caused by so many things. She keeps saying it's multifactorial. One of the things that can cause acne is actually a contact dermatitis, because you have these products that become acnegenic, not comedogenic. They irritate the pore, causing inflammation and infection. Then you get the acne. So just looking at the acne, can you tell if it's a contact dermatitis? Probably not. You need to see a dermatologist who will walk you through a history and questions and try to suss out, is this just hormones? Is there contact dermatitis at play here? Could it be something else? Medicines you're taking? Could it be halogen acne, etc., etc.?
Could it be rosacea?
Could it be rosacea? And does sleep have something to do with inflammation? Absolutely.
Yes, very much so. The brain is a very important organ in our body, and when you go to sleep, I like to make the comparison that it's like having a computer that needs to rest at night. In order to go through the 5 cycles of sleep that will energize the cells that have been overused, and things like that, you need 7 to 8 hours. This is so well established in so much
studies. Research now on it. Right. Lack of sleep is linked to inflammation, obesity, some cancers, many skin problems, inflammation. So we definitely need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, and the circadian rhythm, not 7 to 8 hours of sleep during the day.
But actually following the circadian rhythm.
Yeah, you have to sleep at night and wake up. I mean, I know it's not possible for some jobs.
I had a digital chapter that came out just recently, which talks about the fact that the aging process and lack of sleep was even shown in a group of students who went away on vacation. And so they were measured. They were beautiful study, actually. And then when they came back, they were again tested, and they found out that in fact, when they had lack of sleep just before the exams and all that, they had more inflammation going on in their cells versus when they had gone out, used sunscreens, of course, came back, and there was not as much inflammation.
So get enough sleep
prior to lack of sleep.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to let you go because I have work to do.
Boy, do I have work to do.
Thank you again. Stay uninflamed, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye.
You take care too.
I
huh?
shall.
Okay.
For sure.
Bye, everyone. Nice to see you again.
Okay, so see again, I'm fighting my own inflammation today, folks. But that's inflammation. I mean, I know it seems like a bit of a vague topic maybe to some people who don't quite understand it, but to doctors and certainly dermatologists who deal with inflammatory skin conditions, it is really behind almost everything, every problem that you can think of, every health problem, skin problem. So getting inflammation under control is really, really crucial. And some ways to do that include getting enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours at night of sleep, managing your stress, meditate. Nice clinical studies also on meditation, yoga, talk to a therapist. That's my dog again. I'm so sorry. We're a mess. And other ways to manage stress. There's a lot of free mental health resources that are out now, which are worth checking out. Your diet, for sure. Eat more virgin coconut oil, olive oil in your salads. A good shortcut I like to mention is the Mediterranean diet because it's rich in fish oils, a lot of fresh vegetables, even less fruits because fruits are also sugar. You want more complex whole wheat, wild brown rice and bread and stuff like that. Not so much the white stuff, white sugar, white rice, white pasta. So diet, sleep, managing stress, and certainly on your skin. You want to avoid stressors, which are allergens, which are irritants. And especially now that we are necessarily exposed to more allergens and irritants because we have to be safe and have to disinfect and wear PPEs and stuff, it is doubly, triply important to try to reduce your exposure to skin stressors in everything else. Shampoo, conditioner, body soap, facial cleanser, everything, sunscreen, makeup, everything. And if you are seeing dryness, redness, rashes, acne, hyperpigmentation, signs of inflammation, then you need to add to that anti-inflammatory products. And as I mentioned, you can get a lot of ours. Most of our products contain our clinically published pure organic virgin coconut oil, which is this, which is Know It Oil, or Oils Well, which is the same thing but contains monolaurin. And this and monolaurin are in the majority of our products. So you can shop that at vmvhypoallergenics.com. In the Philippines, it's vmvhypoallergenics.ph. Please remember to subscribe to email so you don't miss back in stock announcements. In the USA, if you shop now, you get a free Big Brave Boo Boo Balm, which is awesome for anti-inflammation. We use it on insect bites and rashes, just on everything and wounds all over. And in the Philippines, you get where did I put it? There. You get this pouch. I get my dew, plus the Essence Clark Wash hair and body shampoo inside, which is an allergen-free wash that we also use as a hand wash because just hand washing as frequently as we do can be irritating. So it's good to have an allergen-free option. And in the Philippines and in the States, if you get 5 of the little Know It oils, which are really great for travel, and like we have many frontliner friends because we're in the medical community, they love this size because they can keep it in their pockets and use it throughout the day as frontliners. You buy 5 of those, it's 30% off. Super handy. And don't forget at VSRC, VMV Skin Research Center and Clinics in the Philippines, we sell the Monolaurin pellets as well. And if you know people who have, please check Facebook. We're going to be showing posters of what chronic spontaneous urticaria and hidradenitis suppurativa look like. And we have 2 studies ongoing for those. So message us privately if you're interested and we can help you get a screening. And if you would like a teleconsultation with my mother or another dermatologist or nutritionist that we work with, because again, nutrition is so important in skincare, drop us a private message and we'll make that happen. And don't forget that if you've had a patch test, you can drop us a private message with your results and we can customize recommendations for you based on your particular allergens. And that's kind of it. So we'll be back next Wednesday morning in Manila, Tuesday evening in the United States at Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m., which is 9 a.m. in Manila. Don't forget to subscribe, please. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to the emails. and subscribe on YouTube and hit the little bell so you don't miss all the great content that we're going to be committing to every week. That's it. And if you want to chat with me, I don't tend to DM, but I'm super happy to chat away on comments on my Instagram, which is at Laura@VMV, at spelled out. So at Laura ATVMV. And that's it. Stay uninflamed. I am going to go lie down and take more Monolaurin pellets and more virgin coconut oil and de-inflame and relax. So I wish everybody an anti-inflammatory rest of the week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Of course, I don't even know how to end this there.